Hey guys, so all the props are out, and so we're just gonna go in and find the best value stuff that's for UFC Fight Night. Lemos Rodriguez featuring Realtor Benito Lopez. Let's just get right to it. First fight of the night, and we are looking at the Lemos Rodriguez. Well, there is one that stood out, and it is on Bet Online. Lemos under 1.5 takedowns, right over here. Under 1.5 minus 145. In the single game parlay on DraftKings, it is paying a whopping 450 still for 2 plus. 475. Oh, sorry. 450. This was actually higher before. It is just a huge arb. You can do this with over 1.5 minutes, which is almost certainly not going to be screwing you over. I mean, unless it ends under 1.5 minutes and she gets 2 plus takedowns. That is just going to be a clean arb and a pretty substantial one, 450 and minus 145. I mean, I'm inclined to think that the 2 plus is maybe a little bit better than the under at minus 145, but honestly, you can't go bad with either or with both. It's just a huge discrepancy between how those are priced. Also, for any Canadian or European viewers, we have Rodriguez decision available on PokerStars at 195, which is just way better than the market. I'm generally a fan of the over props in this particular fight. I think people are overestimating the likelihood of this finishing because they see Lemos as earlier bust and they see her gassing. But if we do look at the last 5 rounders she fought in, even though it didn't go very far against Andrade, she got subbed really early. You could see that she was pacing herself. You see that she wasn't really going all out trying to get a finish. Was just mostly working on the outside with the leg kicks and having a decent amount of success with it. I don't know that that's how she's going to approach this one, but if it gives us any indication, it seems like it's going to be a slower paced fight. Moving on, the D Rod Magny fight, we have an ARB here on the scorecards, no action. 220 on Magny and on DraftKings as well as I believe FanDuel. But we're just going to look at the DraftKings because it's easier to pull up. Finish only on D Rod minus 175. I think we mentioned this earlier. I do think that the D Rod at minus 175 is the good side of it. I have more at least of the D Rod at minus 175 than I do of the Magni, but I did want to take a little bit of both because it was actually even more than plus 220 earlier in the week. I got it at 250. As far as props on this one, there are some striking props that you might want to look into, but no clean arbs, so I don't want to go through them too much, and I'm not entirely sure which side is the good side. But the striking props on BetOnline and DK's single game parlay are definitely off, as they are in the Chase Sherman and Josh Parisian site. Um, I believe the over, let's just go into it just to check. Why not? The over two or more takedowns. Over two. So under 1.5 takedowns for Parisian minus 135. Let's check what it is here. Um, the single game parlay. Total takedowns for Josh Parisian. 2 plus is 220. So 220 and the opposite side minus 135. So again, pretty good. Again, I am liking the Parisian under. I'm liking the bull price, bet online price a little bit more, but not a high amount of confidence. I did only take the bet online side for what it's worth. I know that Chase Sherman has a reputation for being bad at stuffing takedowns and having terrible ground game. But I think his terrible ground game is going to make it even more likely that it's just, if the Parisian gets the takedown, he's going to be able to keep the takedown. But by all means, take either side. I don't have strong convictions about that. There are some on the striking props as well. I think it's the unders here. The under 70 minus 135 and the under 70 here at minus 135. And we can look at just the striking numbers. This fight was just all over the place. Striking overall 55 plus 120, 60 plus 135. So you're getting a very small arb, but the possibility of a double dip if it's under 70 and over 60, and the same thing over 55 and under 70 here, which is just fantastic. I am going for the double dip. I took both sides, and I think you should too. moving on. The Manes Ulanbekov. No, nothing that I can remember off the top of my head. Dawson Madsen. We have a couple of fun ones here. I recommended earlier the Madsen round one at 3,000 or 3,300, I believe, still available. Let's just take a look to make sure it is 3,300. Paying way more than Bet Online, but that's a crap price. Yeah, I mean, try to get into this one a little bit more. When we look at Madsen's wins by KO and sub, and it's just that the sub price is so bad, and so much of his win equity, so much of his finish equity, I think is getting eaten up in the inside the distance number by a really bad sub number. I mean, this is bad. It's not because he's not going to have opportunities. It's that he's had so many opportunities and has failed to even really go for many submissions. And so, especially against Dawson, I don't think he's going to get the job done. I think the TKO, and especially the early TKO, because of how hard Madsen tends to gas, is going to be the most efficient way to go about it. And I just don't think that the gassing factor is reflected in how they've staggered the prices. You see Madsen round 1 KO 3,300, Madsen round 2 4,100, and then 5. Like, these are bad prices individually. Like, if you took them together, it'd be worse than his overall KO prop. But it should be just way more front loaded than that. And so at 3,300, I mean, this has been bid down from 2,000 to 1,800. So somebody out there is liking it at even worse of a price. Wouldn't take it at 2,000, would take it at 3,300. Derek Minner, this is probably like the prop bet of the week. Derek Minner round 1 sub. I was a little bit pleased with it at 600 and Bet Online when they opened it. And let's go down here. Minner round 1 sub. It was bid down from 600 to 550 to 500. I don't know who was buying it at 450, but yeah, I mean, it got bid down a ton, and it is still up at Bet365 at plus 1,000. It also got bid down from 800 to 700 to 650 on DraftKings. But we're seeing, for some reason, I don't know why, but it just got bumped up. And that plus 1,000, that is his primary win condition. That is most of his win condition, most of his finish equity is that first round sub. 80% of his wins have been first round submissions, and Nerdenbeek has not really shown himself to be a proficient enough grappler that if he gets him in those positions, he's going to be able to do an effective job holding him off. Like, Minner he blows his load. He puts all of his energy into trying to get it at the expense of the likelihood of it happening in later rounds. I have more than I normally have on plus 1,000, round props on that Minner round 1 sub. Maverick Shayna Young. Don't think that there's all too much on this. I think it's just gotten blasted. I do have some early on the Miranda Maverick finishes and her sub props, but I don't think there's anything left. Benito Lopez, Mario Batista. We can see right here. I have already been capped here, but Mario Batista on BetMGM and Bet Online is a small ARB, and they have pretty high caps. You can get a couple thousand down, I believe, on Batista. I was capped at 2,400, I think, somewhere around there. It's only like a 2%er, but I mean, hell, if you've got money free on both those sites, you might as well just do it. Plus, you get the BetMGM points, which will hopefully get you up to the higher tier, and you get all those free hotels and all the other shit and all the perks for being the higher tiers in the MGM Rewards Club. In terms of the props, I mean, like, we saw Lopez on the scale, and he came in over. He looked like he's not taking it seriously. I like the Batista line, but not enough to bet it blindly on the money line. I think that's probably a fair price, and maybe it's a little bit good. I don't know. Not enough that I'd want to take a large position on it, but I do think that the round 1. Okay, here, let's look at the finish props in general, because Mario inside the distance, there's a large discrepancy. We see a 150 here on Betway, which is lagging a little bit below the market, behind the market rather, which is actually quite good. And if you combine it with the best decision price, you are getting slightly worse than the money line, but I think that decision price is probably a bit of a stinker. So, looking at that, the 150, can we do better than 150 with the round props? We actually can by piecing together some of the, we could see the round 1 Batista. Did this go down? Let's refresh that. Yeah, round one, we're getting at 390 still. Round one, 390, 650, 1200. We piece those together. We're still able to get about, 390, 650, and 1200. You buy those in appropriate increments, and you can use a calculator or Pinnacle ARB calculator or whatever you want to figure out exactly how to do that. Um, you're getting about a 145 on the inside the distance. The question is, do any of them stand out as being staggered incorrectly? And I think that, well, there's two options here. It's either it's more front loaded, in which case the round one is quite good, or it's not front loaded, and then the round three is good. It's just that the round two seems to be fairly inefficient. Like the drop off from round one to two is not as significant as from round two to round three as it normally would be. I do lean towards the round one at 390. I think it's a little bit more efficient, and especially if Lopez really is as disinterested in the fight as he seems to be. I think that there's a high likelihood that he just doesn't give a shit. I have a very small bet at 400, and that was a little bit before. That was a while back. I wouldn't be like crazy about getting it at 390, and I'm not really crazy about getting it at 400. I do think that the sub though is in conjunction with the staggering of the rounds is really what makes it better. And if we look at the round prop submission round one, Batista at 650, that not 650, at 1200. Like this is really where the value is, and the reason is the sub is just so much more efficiently priced than the knockout. Like if we go into Mario Batista's history, and first of all, trying to figure out what the proportions of the knockout to the sub should be, because right now it's priced in a way where it's 275 market best, 540 market best. It's almost like it's implied. The implied probability at these prices is that the knockout is twice as likely as the sub, roughly. I mean, a little bit less than twice as likely. It's maybe like 1.5 to 1.75 times as likely. And I got the sub at 600 because I did feel that was off. But let's just look at why. We look at Mario Batista's wins. Submission, knockout. Submission, doctor stoppage. Submission, knockout. Submission, knockout. There's a little bit more in submissions than knockouts. And small sample size, of course. Could there be something about the style matchup? Well, let's look at how Benitez has lost. I mean, really, his only loss is the sub in the first round to Manny Bermudez. Not that I'm putting too much stock in that, but when you have somebody who are most of their wins, slightly more than half their wins are submissions, and the other guy's only lost by submission, and he's been in a lot of wars. Like, it's not because there haven't been opportunities for his chin to cave in. He just hasn't been knocked out. I'm inclined to think that, if we had to make an estimate of how the relative likelihood of a submission to a knockout, we would think, not that I would have strong convictions to taking the sub if they were equally priced and it wasn't efficiently priced, but we're getting, 1.5 to 2 times the win equity on something that's already fairly efficiently priced. If you combine the 540 with the 275, you're getting something around 140. So, it's pretty efficiently priced as it is. And then we can further improve on that submission by taking the round one, which is also efficiently priced in the sense that if you mix and match that 1200 with the round two and the round three prop, you're getting something very close, around 550, which is what his market best submission prop, which is also efficient. So the 1200 round one submission Batista is, I think, the prop to bet in this fight if you're going to pick one. And it is a long shot, so I can understand not wanting to bet the farm. It's 1150 here as well. And these sites this is the Unibet network and FanDuel and Bet Rivers, which is part of the Unibet network. So definitely the prop to bet on that particular fight. Jinu Fry, Polyana, Vienna, we talked about it earlier. The decision only for Jinu Fry, I think, is just a fantastic bet. It's not really market driven. Just don't see Paula Vienna being all that much of a striker. It really is submission or bust for her, and the submission is pretty likely, and she can win a decision, but at minus 127 on Unibet, and I think it's slightly worse on, let's take a look. On DraftKings, it is minus 135, and it's minus 127 on Unibet and Bet Rivers, I believe. I think both of those are definitely good bets. Not great bets, but good enough that I would be happy to float a little bit of money on there and not worry about hedging it. But other than that, not a whole lot. The Vienna sub's gotten blasted. I think it's pretty terrible price as is. Um, not much to speak of. I think there was an ARB earlier. Let's just actually check to see if it's still there. No, it's not there. Yeah, the Vienna scorecard's no action at minus 275. I think there was some places that had a Frey at plus 325, 350, but that's long gone. Munoz Jr., Shalinian, nothing that really stood out. Candelario Hadley, and nothing that stood out. Pascual Vidal. We were on the lookout for the Pascual decision, which is been bid down from 225 to 215, is available at 240. Now, if we combine that with what we think a fair market value is for this, are we getting better than the money line? The answer is no. It's comparable. It is an efficient way to bet Pascual if you do like Pascual, but it ended up not being all that great. I was expecting there to be more line movement on Pascual, but it doesn't seem that there has been. One other thing, there is a break even on the scorecards, no action here. You can see it's 125 Pascual. You can get it at minus 125 Vidal on a couple places. Let's see, is it here? Pascual. Minus 135 on DraftKings, I think minus 125. If you really were interested in betting a vig-free line, you can take one or the other. I don't have a strong lean on which one I think is better. Probably the Vidal at minus 125, but very low conviction on that one. So, that pretty much wraps up the props on here. We do have some bare knuckle events coming up, which this is just super speculative. I don't want to go into them, but I will. Let's pull up the props on, I think it's under boxing. You got to remember that if they do actually have it under here. Boxing, it's not. Where is it? Did they pull their BKFC line? I think they pulled their BKFC. Okay, so then that's it for today. I'll have to check up on that because they did have the BKFC stuff up earlier, and there were some overs, the rare overs on BKFC that I actually thought were quite good. All right, so I'm going to hopefully do another video before the event itself tomorrow. But just wanted to get that up because there are some good things out there. And also, just always be checking the striking props. I think there were a couple of others on the Madsen fight and the Dawson fight, on the D-Rod and the Magny fight in terms of striking props on BetOnline and the DraftKings single game parlay. Always worth checking out for. And if you miss the price, you can always check Bodog because Bodog just tends to mirror whatever BetOnline put up the day before. So you can usually get it there and at much higher caps. So, just a tip. But that's all for today. If you liked it, the subscribe button, the like button, watch the next video, whatever you want to do. Thanks for watching.